Welcome to the TNF podcast. Like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, give us a follow and give us a rating. That would be fantastic. All right. Upcoming shows we've got for everyone. We've got Dennis Merrick from Earth Crisis and Path of Resistance. That's going to be on the 8th of June at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Just added Raja Kishore Das, Vic Daikara from Inside Out, 108, Shelter, and Beyond. That's going to be on the 11th. It's going to be a later show. It's also on a Wednesday, Wednesday the 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So just heads up on that. Still waiting on confirmation from Joe Hardcore of Punishment, and This Is Hardcore, tentatively set on the 22nd of June at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Back to our regularly scheduled Sundays. And we're going to have Timmy Leonard from Invocation of Nehek. That's going to be on the 29th of June at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right before their performance at Hellfire. That should be really cool. So check it out. I have an official merchandising company, Hell's Heart Merch Co. Go on over to hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use the code 20 for 20% off your entire order. They're fine, Bella Canvas, Next Level, Tri-Blend t-shirts. They're movie-themed, hardcore themed. So if you like hardcore and movies, go and check it out. I think you'll really like them. So my next guest today, really, really talented guitarist. I've been following his project for quite some time. Had the pleasure of seeing them live in 2002, I believe. And it was sonic and mind-blowing. And this guy is continuing to put out some awesome projects. You will know him most notably from the group Candiria. He also plays in a project called SPYLACOPA and is currently just got off tour, or just got off a festival here, rather, with Julie Christmas. Ladies and gentlemen, John LaMacchia.
Wow.
Thanks so much for being here, John.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. I don't remember ever seeing that clip. Do you know exactly where, do you have any information about it?
I can send it to you. It was something I lifted on YouTube. I would play actual videos and actual songs, but it'll flag them, the YouTube algorithm, so the copyright and whatnot. But yeah, I'll be sure to send that to you. I want to say it was Hate56. I get a lot of stuff from Hate56, but I could be wrong on that. But I'll double check for you and I'll send it to you. But yeah, that one was from, I think, 2001, maybe.
It makes sense based on the guitar I'm playing. It's funny how like you remember history that way. But yeah, if you don't mind, because if it's a decent set, Candiria is not an active band at this point, but I do like to keep up on the social media stuff. I try to reissue vinyl records when I can and put out merch when I can. I try to keep, the fans they're like, I mean, we have such incredible fans and supporters. We're really, really fortunate in that way. So I do try to keep up on social media, and I like to, when a set or a live set from the past comes up, I usually just share it and people talk about it and watch it, and it's always a fun
Sure.
one. So send it my way, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And we were talking backstage. You recently just played a festival in England with Julie Christmas.
Right. It was the Portals Festival. And we headlined the Sunday. It was a 2-day festival, Saturday and Sunday. And we had a great time. Really, really incredible festival. We met some great people. We played a fun show, probably the longest set we've ever played, 75 minutes, which doesn't sound incredibly long, but I think for like what we prefer a little bit shorter, but it didn't feel as long as we thought it was going to feel. And we had a blast. So, that's all that counts, Yeah, we have a great time. Hopefully the people who got to see us play had a blast as well. And that's it, man. That's all you can hope for.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Now, let's talk about you a little bit as far as growing up, where you grew up and what sort of music you heard while you were growing up. What were your early influences? Like, what was playing in your household? Did you have family members that played music? Did
Mhm.
you play high school band? Did you play in any sort of proto bands when you were growing up? And then how did that seg into your concert viewing experience? Like, what was your first live show? And then how did that seg into the heavier end of the musical spectrum?
Gotcha. Okay. So I did grow up in a very musical household. When I say that, I mean like there was music playing in every room, in every house, all the time. Mostly my father and my mother were both, record collectors, and they both loved listening to music of all different kinds. But mainly, it was R&B, soul, disco, eventually house music. I grew up in South Brooklyn, so everybody was dancing, fucking. Um, there were block parties, and dancing and DJing was a huge thing. It was a huge part of my life. Then eventually, I discovered Michael Jackson. I'm one of those kids, and I fell in love with Thriller and Billie Jean and all of these songs, and that record was extremely important to me. Um, and then my father, um, he was really interested in sort of what I got started getting into. So around the age of 12, I was actually I think it was the Aerosmith did a version. Run DMC did a version of Walk This Way with Aerosmith. It was the first time I ever receptively, it was like, oh shit, wait a minute, that's I guess that's rock music, whatever. And I was interested in it. I was like, I like this. And I went to school. I knew this kid in school who listened to. He had his book bag had all of like the ACDC logo and the Judas Priest logo and the Iron Maiden logo. So it's like, I'll ask this kid. And I was like, hey, I think I like rock music. And I was like, what should I do? And he opened up his book bag. It's like a movie. He opened up his book bag. He's like, okay, take this home. And he said, take this home. And he gave me two cassettes. One was Rat Out of the Cellar, and one was Metallica Ride the Lightning. And
Nice.
I took them home, and I really did. To me, it's interesting because there really wasn't much in my mind at the time. It wasn't a huge, like, it was all guitar, bass, and drums, and dudes with long hair. So I was like, this is all the same. Now, obviously, I realize it is not the same, but similar, similar world. I like the Rat stuff. I loved the Metallica stuff, obviously, and that was the start of me taking an interest in that kind of music. And then my father, at the age of 12, my dad. I forget the order you wanted to hear this stuff, but I'll just.
Oh, well, as far as like, what sort of non-metal, like heavy concert you went to, and then how did you discover the heavier music scene in Brooklyn as a result of that?
Right. Okay. So I don't think I've ever been to a non-metal concert or non-hardcore concert. I think for the most part, my live music experiences was mostly DJs on block parties, um, and dance parties in people's basements as a kid. Um, and at a very young age, I started going to hardcore shows because my friends were into getting into the hardcore scene. They were skating at 13, 14 years old. So by that point, we were already going to uh, what do you call it? Like shows at like the YMCA, or like shows at churches and stuff. And the very first one that I went to was a band called COV, Circle of Violence. There was all the local kids. And I think the other band that was on the bill was Social Disorder, another local hardcore band. So it was my first experience was going to see a show. I actually saw a hardcore show, and I absolutely loved it. And it wasn't long until I went to see an actual like full blown concert. But that was sort of my first live music experience, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Um, As far as how that led to me playing music was shortly after all of that stuff. My dad um, saw my interest in more in my strong influence in this kind of music, and worked with a friend who was a musician and bought a guitar from him, brought it home for me, and said, "Hey, I want you to take guitar lessons." And that's the long and short. That's the short version of it. The long version is he called me in his room one night and he's like, "Hey, you know, I want you to play an instrument." I'm like, "Okay, I'll play the drums." He goes, "No, you'll play guitar." And then he went and he got a guitar and he got me lessons, and that's kind of how it all started. And I really, really stuck. I mean, at first it was very uncomfortable. Like I didn't even know how to hold a pick. It was a really weird, uncomfortable feeling. But once I learned how to play literally like smoke on the water, I was like, oh my God, I'm fucking in love with this. And I just kind of went crazy from there, you know?
That's a good introductory song for a lot of kids to play, definitely too. And had I learned how to play drums, I had the opportunity to learn music when I was in high school. It was either trumpet or percussion, and I picked trumpet. And I kicked myself in the ass every time because I would have started about 20 different bands had I known drums, because everybody is always looking for a drummer. It's and I still don't know how to play drums. I wish I had picked up that musical skill set. But how does your dad feel about you with your trajectory? He must be pretty proud of you then, yeah?
I mean, at this point, I don't think my dad takes much of an interest in what I'm doing now musically, but that I mean, there was a time like I played in hardcore bands growing up, and I started another band. It was more like when the grunge stuff started happening. I formed like a band with my bass player Mike, who played in Candiria as well. Me and him have been playing our whole lives together, basically. Um, and we started playing some like progressive, grungy combination of somewhere between King Crimson and, I don't know, Soundgarden or something like that. And then we actually signed this independent record deal, and we made a record, and we did all of that. But then shortly after that, I was in an accident. I was in a really bad car accident. So that kind of changed the trajectory of that band. Mike went ahead and started touring with the band Marauder, and that band sort of fizzled out. And then from that point, I was going to quit. And I told my dad, I've been doing this for 10 years now. I put in a bunch of time, and I think I just want to go to art school and learn how to draw. And he said, don't quit, stay with it. You're really talented. If you stick with it, something good's going to come out of it. I have this feeling. You should just hold off on that thought. And literally 2 weeks, I think a week or 2 weeks later, Carly from Candiria called me and asked me to join the band. So that's how it happened. And he was such a big supporter. I mean, my dad he bought every record we put out. He would buy like 10 copies. He'd have to have the band sign all 10 copies. And he would come to shows when he could, but he really, really loved it. And as much as the music was super aggressive, and the whole vocal style thing was not to his taste. When he saw the band live, I think he really saw something in the band that was exciting to him, and he fell in love with Carly. He really admired Carly a great deal, and they became friends. And he became friends with all the band members, and huge supporter. My mom too, my whole family, for that matter. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear, because it is almost that live experience that kind of changes things for people. I've had friends that could care less about heavier hardcore metal music, and then they actually go and experience the live performance, and then it just kind of clicks for them. I'm like, oh, now I get it. Now I see like what this is all about.
Sure. No, 100%. I mean, and especially at the time, the shows we were playing, things have changed a lot since then, obviously. But it was an exciting time for music. There was a lot of diversity in a lot of the bands. Like there was a lot of like musicality at that time happening. You had bands like the Dillinger Escape Plan, Meshuggah, Coalesce. You had all these bands that were creatively really doing their own thing, like Canute and like Botch and all of these really cool
Yeah.
bands that were just doing their own thing and creating their own style and sound. I mean, I could just go on and on. Hatebreed and Shadows Fall and all of our friends, all of these bands that we were playing with all the time. We know, you know, I mean, I'm not, I mean, maybe it's my, I think a lot of things changed when people started using, everybody started recording to the grid and using the same kind of samples, and things sound a little bit more homogenized now in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Like there are bands that specifically sound like this is the style. Like especially when you think about like Warped Tour bands, you know what I mean? It's really pretty specific production wise.
Yeah.
And that's if you like that sort of thing, that's what you're into. And that's awesome because I think there was a time you could look back to like Phil Spector as a producer. He did the whole wall of sound thing. And I guess you could relate it to that in a sense. But I guess whenever Candiria was coming up, there was a definitely a little bit more of this independence or this diversity among all the bands, and it was a really, really exciting time. And I'm like, look, I'm fucking 52 at this point. I'm sure at this point, for a young band that's coming up, it is the most exciting time in music history. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
I think, you know.
And it's especially with all the resources that are available now, like you look at all these people that are on YouTube, these like musical virtuosos, and they can just sit and just study and just watch guitar players and drummers, and they're some of the most insane musicians I've ever seen. And it almost kind of makes me jealous and envious because it's like I didn't have that like growing up, you know. I wish I'd had that, you know. So yeah, definitely exciting for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And when you think about how much you can accomplish with just your phone, you know what I mean? You could literally just be a musician and just record everything on your phone, you know, post it on social media. And this is sort of the new model for like a lot of young musicians out there that maybe are living in a remote place and their dream is, I want to be a musician. I want to put music out into the world and I can do it. I don't need to go move to another city. I don't need to go find 4 other people or 3 other people. I can create music on my own at home. Someone just shared a video of this 5-year-old kid. I'm sure you might have seen this kid. I mean, this kid is like, it's nuts. He records music. He records every single part of his own music. He uses Logic, and I think it's Logic or GarageBand. But he sits there with a keyboard and he'll record a keyboard part, then he'll record a bass line, he'll lay down his vocals. He'll sit there, he knows what compression is, he knows what reverb is and delay, and he knows how to write melodies, and he knows how to sing in tune. And I'm like, this kid's 5 years old and he's able to record music and it's good, you know? So it's a really wild world we're living in regards to what you can do and how level the playing field is. I mean, you don't need a label anymore. You don't need a distribution company anymore. You don't need shit. Sign up to Instagram, sign up to YouTube,
TikTok,
and do you live your best life and put music out into the world, put art out into the world, and who knows, you know? And it's crazy what I'm seeing too. Like I see this woman who has Tourette syndrome. And she just talks about her condition and her personality and just you know, she talks about her life and how that affects her life and how and the positive part of it and the negative, you know, all of these different things. And she's fucking super famous. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like there's no model anymore. There's no way you can dictate what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. You got, you know, all kinds of like old school guys scratching their head. How do we make a band blow up again? It's like you just don't freaking know anymore, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy. There's a girl that I watch. She plays drums in heels, and we were talking about Meshuggah earlier. Plays Bleed in heels, and I'm like, that song's hard enough to play because I think Tomas plays it like barefoot, you know, like she sits here and just like is killing it in heels, you know, and I'm like, this is insane. Really good drummer.
It's not Brooke, is it?
I don't know what her name is, but I'm just captivated. Yeah.
I think she's done a one or two Candiria songs.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
She's a really cool person, and she's a really nice person. We've met a few times. She's come to a couple of shows, and she's so incredibly talented. And it's such
Yeah.
a great example of a person that just took everything that they were passionate about, put it out into the world, and did something extremely positive with their life and their time. And yeah, it's a great example of what's possible. And
Yeah.
it's fucking awesome. It really is.
Yeah. It's really inspiring. I love seeing stuff like that on the internet. And, back to you were saying that Carly had called you up to bring you into Candiria. So they were already a band at the time.
Yes.
Did Carly know you as like a personal friend, or had he seen you from performances, or did you come as like a recommendation?
Well, that's the thing. We did play shows together. My band the band was called Dead Air that I was in, and that was the band I was in before I joined Candiria. The one that Mike was in, that I got into the accident, and he joined Marauder, and that band fell apart. And at the time, the original guitar player from Candiria, Chris Puma, when Candiria started putting out records and started playing shows, Chris didn't want to play live. He wasn't interested in playing live or touring, and the rest of the band was. Chris wanted to study the guitar, and he wanted to learn how to become a great player. And I have great deal of respect for him as a guitar player, and also someone who just was genuinely interested in learning how to play the guitar. And his that was really, he had those kinds of goals. So it just worked out timing wise that I was free. I wasn't in a Dead Air anymore, and they needed a guitar player, and they were just putting out the second album, Beyond Reasonable Doubt. And the fact that we are Dead Air and Candiria, we admired each other's bands. We played shows together, even though we were vastly different. It was a very, I think, in my opinion, one of my favorite things that you would see in New York at the time was a mixed bill like that, like a progressive band mixed with a band that does like death metal, jazzy, weird hip hop stuff, but you would see it on the same bill. And it was like, it wasn't a weird thing because, at the time, diversity was attractive to a selling point. People are like, what the hell would I want to go see 4 death metal bands for in a row? You know what I mean? I want to see this,
right?
A little bit of this. I like this. I like that. And yeah, I still am a huge fan of mixed bills. But getting back to the point, yeah, that was when Carly knew me as a friend, and he also knew me as a player and a songwriter. And I didn't know how interested he was in until he called me and expressed interest. But yeah, basically that's how it happened. We just had we ran in similar circles. We played shows together, and we admired each other as musicians. Yeah.
Amazing. That's incredible. And it is kind of great when you already have some sort of foundation with the people. It seems like it would make the writing process and the coexistence of the band members infinitely easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was a really cool thing because a lot of the camaraderie we already had before we were in a band together, and that includes Mike MacGyver, who eventually wound up coming and joining Candiria as well. That really was a huge part of it. Was just all the people we knew, all the people we grew up with, and it was a huge part of how we would, when we started playing shows, Candiria started playing shows. All of mine and Mike's friends and fans that used to come to see my band play would now come to Candiria shows, and like everyone knew each other. It was one big giant happy Brooklyn family,
Yeah.
And then there were other bands that we would play with that were all from Brooklyn. And next thing you know, there's 500 people at a show, and somehow, some way, everybody kind of is connected, And it was, a great time when we had a huge, really incredible scene at that time too, like hardcore scene, metal scene, underground music scene. There was great clubs. There was a club in the Bronx, the Blackthorn in the Bronx. Then there was Castle Heights in Queens. The Rave. I mean, I could go on and on for the amount of venues we had back then, and we were fortunate to have. So, when you have that many venues that support this kind of music, you're gonna have a good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was kind of how it all started for us.
And with Candiria, you guys have melded so many genres together, and I think of you guys in the same breadth that some of the bands that you mentioned earlier, like Meshuggah and Dillinger Escape Plan and Coalesce and Botch, you guys have all got that really unique, off time type, but still simultaneously chaotic aspect to each project, and so with that group, when you guys came together, when you joined them, rather, how was the writing process like? Because was it one of those things where you guys were all kind of unified and you wanted it to sound that way, or was it like, okay, I want this influence to be here, and I want a jazzy part in here, I want a rap style part in here, I want a real heavy breakdown in here? How did that work out for you guys?
Well, that's the thing. It's really it depends song to song and album to album, but um, generally, pretty much how you described it. Carly was really the overseer. He really just was the overseer, and we were the ones presenting ideas. Basically, Carly also would present ideas. Like there's a lot of classic riffs and parts in songs that you would never think. But Carly is the guy who would hum this guitar idea. As a matter, the opening. I don't know how familiar you are with the Candiria catalog, but on Beyond Reasonable Doubt, the opening track, Faction, that opening riff, he wrote that. Carly,
Mm-hmm.
he hummed that riff out to Ken and Eric, and they wrote it. And he that's it. Sometimes he'll be like, I got this idea for a riff, and he'll just sit there and he'll, in his amazing, incredible animated way, he will just sit there and hum something to you, and you sit there and you figure out the notes, and that's how he writes. Julie is the same way. Julie Christmas writes the same thing. Right? She writes the same way. She doesn't play an instrument. She'll just say, "These are the notes I want." Bing, ding, ding. And as a matter of fact, that ding, 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 that is a long-running joke. We call it triangular, and that's a joke that me and Julie had for. I mean, it's got to be several years that she came to me and we were writing something, and she jokingly just was like, I want you to do these three notes, ding, ding, ding. And she called it the triangular. And this was a long running joke, and it was just a joke at the time. But I would always try to come back to it and be like, I want to write that for her in one of the songs. And we actually wound up writing it. I actually wound up writing it. There's a song called Thin Skin on the new Julie Christmas record. And there's three notes in the riff. And I was like, Julie, it's triangular. She's like, you didn't do it right. She's a true ball breaker, but I did try to get that in there. And in my opinion, I accomplished it, but whatever, it's just a joke. But regardless, that's how things would go. Carly would sort of oversee everything. And we would present ideas, and he would sign off on stuff, and we would continue on. And there would be times where he'd be like, this song needs this kind of thing. This song needs some kind of transition. This song needs, at this point, we need a breakdown. This song needs to go from here to here, And it was a wonderful thing to be one of the scientists, in the lab, basically, and have the freedom to just try anything and then just see what worked, see sort of kind of what stuck. But there were some times when, say we were writing a hip hop track early on. I literally had nothing to do with it. It was Carly, it was Ken, and it was Carly's cousin, two cousins, and all of his people that he grew up, freestyling and writing. And these guys this is what they did. They didn't do it for money. They didn't do it for fame. None of these people are famous, but they're incredibly talented. And Carly would bring them in the studio, and they would just flow and freestyle, and we would have a song, A lot of the jazz stuff Ken would write on his own. Sometimes he would present it to the band, and we would then work on it. Or he would have like a quintet or a quartet work on it of guys outside of the band, and that song would make it onto the record. It was a really open thing. Like, anything could go. There was some of the things I wrote completely on my own in my house on an 8-track. And I was like, guys, I got an idea. Here, what do you think of this? And Carly would be like, I love it. Put it on the record. That's it. That's how easy it was.
Wow.
He'd be like, I love it.
That's great.
Put it on the album, you know? Absolutely. Don't touch it. It's perfect. You know? It was free. It was free. And the thing is also we came up in a time where, you know, now vinyl is a big thing. People bands release EPs. Then it was a CD, 70 minutes. So there was 70 minutes of music. And if it fit on a CD, hey, fuck it. We were putting out an album. We wanted to give people as much as we could. And we always tried to fill that CD up. It wasn't until later on we realized, you know, maybe tone down. But the first bunch of records we really did, we filled it up as much as we could, you know? So, yeah. Hope that gives you an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually listening to one of your other interviews and somebody compared Carly to almost like a mathematician.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. The way he wrote, because we were presenting ideas to him that were in odd time signatures. And sometimes they were not only odd time signatures, but there were these breaks where there was a transition, another completely different time signature or piece of music altogether back into that time signature or back in, you know, so it was crazy for him. So he had questions, you know, he had like, what the hell, what's the time signature here? How do I count this out? And anyone in the band, whoever wrote the part, would sit there and help him. This is in 7/8. This transition is 3 beats of this, and then 4, you know, another, you know, 2 measures of 4/4, whatever. And we would explain it to him, and he would figure out a way to count out how that worked out with how many syllables he could fit in to that one line. And then he would take that and use that sort of equation that he came up with, whatever it was always this wild thing that he came up with. And he would just use that and apply it and then make adjustments and keep messing with it. But it really was this mathematical sort of equation he came up with syllables against whatever time signature we had. I still don't fully understand it to this day. And I don't think anyone else in the band does, except for Carly. And I give him a lot of credit for taking on the difficult task of writing like rhythmically, but also putting emotion into it. It's a really difficult task, you know?
Yeah. It seems like it would require a lot of skill and finesse, you know?
Yeah. Well, he is extremely skillful. He's incredible. He's incredibly talented as far as his musicality goes and his level of, you know, him growing up with hip hop and metal just gave him a completely different skill set where he was able to take that ability to flow rhythmically and add it into, you know, sort of a metal tone. There's a lot of guttural vocalists, you know, you listen to bands like Godflesh or other bands, and I'm not trying to say they're this or they're that, but a lot of it is really guttural and very simple and very basic. And he was able to take those sounds and apply this extremely complex rhythmic sort of structure into all of these songs. And it's pretty wild. Just like the guy from Sugar. I don't know how he does it, man. I don't even. Those guys are on another level, or Car Bomb for that matter. Those is another band that's just completely like I listen. I'm like, man, this is incredible. But God, I don't even know what it took to make this work. You know.
It's weird too because like some parts will be like heavily syncopated, and then other times vocally will just completely deviate from that and do something completely different where it's not even going in with the rest of the instruments. Sure. It's incredible. I love it.
Sure. Yeah. Which band are you speaking about? Candiria or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, Meshuggah too.
yeah. I mean, all of them, right? Yeah, I think that's the thing. Harley did like we as musicians also knew how important it was from all the chaos to bring, you know, we still love dance music. We all grew up listening to dance music, listening to music with groove, jazz and bebop and like I said, house music and electronic music and all the different influences that we grew up listening to in New York City, all the different things we would hear all the time. We knew how important it was just to get back to the basics and deliver something that was extremely palatable, extremely easy to listen to and get into, and not so, you know, what would be the point, to not then release it and give something that's just completely straightforward and lay it down right down the line. Those were our favorite moments, I think, were those moments where you could just be like, okay, let's just fucking relax and just fucking play this sick riff, and it's straight 4/4, and everybody's going fucking crazy,
Yeah.
yeah, those were just as methodically planned as all of the rest of the crazy stuff, and a lot of that had to do with Eric and Carly and Ken and their sort of these are the guys. These Carly, Eric, and Ken were really the reason Candiria has the sound that it has. I can take credit for writing a bunch of the stuff. I can take credit for championing the band and touring and making these records with these guys. But the sound came from their brains. Eric's style, Kenny's drumming style, and Carly's vocal style. That really is where the band's DNA kind of originated. And their knack for sort of devising a way where the song would then lead to something like that, like a simple thing, is really like a thing that I just was like had a ton of respect for them for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
My first exposure to you guys was through 300% Density.
Oh, okay.
I remember hearing that album and was just like, whoa, like it completely mind blowing. And even some of the other contemporaries that you guys had at the time, some of the ones that we had mentioned earlier, completely off in left field from those guys too. Just again, really sonically unique. I loved it. I had mentioned I got to catch you guys in 2002. Right. I believe it was on a tour with, correct me if I'm wrong, 36 Crazy Fist. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. I caught you guys at Tremont Music Hall and was just, again, blown away. And the stage performance, it was hype. It was amazing. And, you guys toured on that album. And then, many people know about this. You guys were involved in a horrible wreck, and I actually went and listened to the story where you guys were rammed by a tractor trailer, and it just sounded like it was absolutely devastating. And people were injured, and just the whole event was traumatic. And how did you feel after that? Was that something that you had some sort of like PTSD where you had to process that? Was that a hard thing to kind of reconcile with?
Yeah. We all, because it happened to a group of us, at that point in my life personally, that had been my 5th accident. My whole life I've been like, I got hit by a car on a bike. I got hit by a car on a skateboard. I was in a head-on collision in 96. That's whenever the band Dead Air broke up. When I first joined Candiria, I had a steel rod in my leg from one of the accidents I was in previously. When I first joined the band, I was on crutches, and I had to go, to Eric's house. Eric was teaching me guitar parts, and I would then I couldn't even get back home. I would have to stay on his house because I couldn't really get rid. So accidents were just something that, I don't know, just in my life, I would get into an accident, break a leg, do this, and that would happen. And but the accident with Candiria when we were on the road, I think it was so traumatizing. It was literally a year after 9/11 had happened, and we were already going through processing that. And then literally on pretty much 2 days before the anniversary of 9/11 is when the accident happened. And we were on the road, and we were rear-ended by a tractor trailer, and we all suffered. Everyone got injured really, really badly. 4 of us were ejected from the vehicle. I wound up on the highway, I don't know how many feet away. I don't remember any of that. And then I woke up. I woke up a couple times on the highway. It was a really strange experience. And then I woke up, they're smacking me in the face in the hospital, and they're waking me up and telling me I was in an accident and everything. And that's when I realized. But yes, the recovery was really awful. I broke my arm, all these bones on the right, on my right side. My collarbone in 2 places, a rib, my arm, my scapula. I think 2 herniated discs in the neck. really, really bad head injury. Like I bruised my brain basically, and I suffered from from dizzy spells for years. For years, like it was pretty horrible. And you know, after that, you know, we went home and everyone took some time to recover, and however long it took, and some people wanted to get back in a van right away, and some people didn't. Um, so it did take some time, and it took years for people to recover, honestly. But we knew we needed to get back at it, so we did. And eventually, we wound up writing again, and then the musical style changed. Carly, at that point in his life, wanted to sing. I think at that point he was like, I've done enough screaming. I still love doing it. But this moment in our lives, this thing that had happened, he wanted to express something deeper than um, just a rhythmic sort of aggressive attack. He wanted to also express this sort of emotional side where, and you know, he felt that was an important aspect of our lives. I mean, we just experienced this near death thing. 9/11 just had happened, and I guess he just wanted he wanted more sort of he wanted to add some new tools to his arsenal, and it came in the form of melody and choruses and harmony and all these things that he never really got the chance to experiment with, and that's kind of why the band moved in that direction.
Yeah, it's such a different album, What Doesn't Kill You, from anything you guys had released in the past. Like you said, melodic, and it's, you know, got like, you know, choruses, verse, bridge, things like that. And I remember the cover with the wrecked van, and I was like, oh, wow. I was like, they really kind of just took ownership of that whole event and, you know, used that as like a catalyst to spring forward into that new era of the band. And yeah, just mind blowing to me. And I think it's an excellent album too. Again, though, really kind of surprising to hear that shift just based on your guys' previous catalog. Right. What were you guys kind of listening to at the time that kind of influenced that? Was it the same influences as before, or was it something, again, you said it was a conscious decision. So what were you guys kind of gleaning from whenever you were doing that album?
You know, I don't think I could point to one particular record that changed sort of our idea of what we wanted to do, because the first time we went to meet the producer that we were going to work with, David Bendeth, the first time we went, me and Ken walked out. We left. We were like, this is not the guy. He doesn't understand what we do. He's not from our world. This is not right for us. So there, at the time, there was a bit of a sort of inner struggle as inner struggle of whether or not this is the right move for us. So there were some of us that were very reluctant. I was reluctant. I thought to myself, at this point in our game, you know, regardless of whether the accident happened or not, anything that we gained, anything that we accomplished, and I mean like getting on to MTV, signing at the end of it, when we were hit by the truck, we had just signed a major deal with a movie company. And they were like looking at us like, we want you guys to write music for movies. They handed me the script to Underworld, the very first script to Underworld.
Whoa!
Yeah, one of the Skip Williamson from Lakeshore Records handed me the script before it was even written, before anything even happened. Eventually, we were in the accident, so we never got to do anything. But I was on tour reading the script to Underworld, and we were told, "Here you go. Here's a script. Go write something for it." Imagine that.
Wow! I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we got involved with Lakeshore, and we did wind up getting some of our music in some of the films. But that relationship with Lakeshore was very short-lived, very tumultuous, and it was because of the accident. We got into the accident. They thought this band will never be the same again. They'll never recover. They'll never be the live band they were, and we need to cut ties. And they did, and it was a very ugly situation. So I don't want to harp on the negative too much. But like I said, we were coming from all the success that we had garnered and all the things that we accomplished. We accomplished it because we were independent. We were unique. We were doing things that no one else was doing. And I just felt to myself, guys, how can you deny, you know, sort of like decide we're not going to do this anymore. Now we're going to do this. And it was a little closed-minded in my, you know, looking back, I wish I wasn't so closed-minded to it. And if I would have went along with it and did my part to help shape it in a way that it would work more for our original fans, because we did lose a lot of our fans. Just sort of like, nah, we're not into this, but we did gain a whole new slew of fans, so it is what it is. It's just the life of a band,
Yeah.
And truthfully, I still have my issues with some of the music on the record. I still believe like some of the stuff that we wrote, I felt was a little I don't know. I don't want to use the word like contrived, because no one stood to gain anything from it financially or anything like that. But we were trying to write something that was a little bit more palatable. We wanted to do something that would move more units, or we wanted to do something that would basically put us in front of a wider audience. That was the thought.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was, I don't know. I don't use the term selling out. I don't think anybody uses that term anymore. But like, to me, that's not artistry. That's commercial, sort of, taking something and making a homogenized, condensed version of something so that you can make it palatable and sell more records. And whatever, maybe that's what we needed at the time. I'm not going to sit here and say that's all that went into it, because a ton of emotion went into it. A ton of heart and soul went into it. It just wasn't mine. There were certain songs on the record. And the crazy part of it is, the songs I'm talking about, I wrote the parts. They were like, it's up. Hey man, we need you, man. We need you. You're the rock guitar player, because before Candiria, I played basically rock in rock bands. So we're like, we need you. We need your help doing this. So I did my part, but I did it reluctantly, I'll say. But in the long run, I'm proud of, no matter how difficult things get for bands at times, we still stuck together as a band. We still gave Carly the opportunity, and the rest of the band the opportunity, if this is what they were feeling strongly about, to give them the floor, basically, and be like, this is what you really truly believe in. Well, here, I'm gonna, as reluctant as I am, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna support you, and we're gonna make this happen. And we did, and it wound up being probably the most successful record we ever put out. And if you look at Spotify, and if you look at just basic, if you go by that, it's definitely the most popular record, that people are listening to. So that's, and that says something. And interestingly enough, me and the producer David Bendeth are really, really good friends. We sort of butt heads at the beginning, but we remained great friends. We still are great friends. And he just recently gave me permission to put out a 20th anniversary edition of What Doesn't Kill You on vinyl. There are still some copies available at my Rising Pulse, risingpulse.com. If anyone's interested in buying a copy of the record on vinyl, it's the first time it's ever been put out on vinyl, and you can pick one up.
Anybody listening, pick up a copy. Do it.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you guys kind of put the band to rest for a little bit after that. And I think I had heard you mention in another interview, it was a culmination of things. It was the wreck. It was the stylistic change. Is that a safe assessment?
Well, what happened was, we finished the record for What Doesn't Kill You. We did a couple of videos for it. We did press for it. We hit the road. I was on the road, and I was honestly, at that point, mentally, I was really in no condition to be on the road. I was suffering from some kind of post-traumatic stress syndrome thing. I was struggling with addiction at the time. I was having a really hard time with the pain meds that they put me on. It was not affecting me mentally right. I started leaning on that stuff, and it led to me getting deeply dependent and addicted to painkillers, which I'm not afraid to admit. I mean, it's not something that I sought after. It's just something, I was in this accident and I went to a doctor. They started giving me Vicodin. Next thing you know, I'm taking this shit all the time. It's highly addictive. And
I got hit by a car, man. So I went through a similar spell to where I got dependent on substances as well to make it through it. But I get it. So you were in kind of a real kind of a bad place where you were having kind of trouble processing some of that.
Sure, absolutely. And I needed to get away from the band. The music wasn't saving me. That's the way I put it to the guys. I was like, all these things that's happening in my mind and in my heart, or whatever I'm going through. If the music, if I really truly believe in the music, and when I'm talking about some of the songs we were playing off of What Doesn't Kill You, this new era of the band, these guys were on fire about it. And they were, and I give them so much credit because they made this record and they truly were like, we're doing this. And for me, it wasn't doing it for me. And it wasn't saving me, and it wasn't enough. I felt every time I got out on stage, I always knew that those songs were going to come up, and I didn't feel right playing them, and it just was not right for me. And I needed to step away from the band, so I did. And I stepped away, and they continued touring, and they continued going. They went to Europe, and they did some great things. They played Roseland, and they did some things that were sort of like, I missed out on some of the things that, like, my dreams. I always wanted to play Roseland Ballroom. I left the band. They went ahead and did it, and I missed out on that experience. But they went on to do it, and eventually the band fizzled out. Ken eventually wanted to walk away from the band. He wanted to move to LA. Things just weren't working out, and the band was fizzling out. But we still had another record to make for the label that we made What Doesn't Kill You, that album for. And Carly and Ken came to me, and this is after I left the band. I started working on SPYLACOPA stuff, and I thought to myself, I need to work on my own music. But then they came to me, and Carly was like, we're writing another record, and quite honestly, I don't want to write it without you. What do you think? And first of all, I was like, I left this band, and for them to come to me and be like, hey, we're making this record, and we want you to be a part of it. I felt like I had an opportunity to redeem myself, and also them giving me this chance to do, you know what I mean? I felt like, oh, man, these guys, like, I went along reluctantly for the last one. I'm not going to be reluctant about anything these guys want to do this time around. I'm going to be supportive. I'm going to be a writing force for them, and I'm going to do my part, and be fucking psyched about it. So we made a record called Kiss the Lie. It was not a very popular record, and it was completely different than What Doesn't Kill You, in the sense it was this tuning that I was working on for SPYLACOPA. I had all of these riffs that I'd written, and it was going to be what I was going to present to Greg Puciato from Dillinger Escape Plan. And because he was the only, at that point, he was the only other collaborator I had for SPYLACOPA. And when they came to me, I said, I don't have any music, Kenny was like, listen, you got 2 weeks, you got 2 weeks to come up with shit for an album. I'm like, 2 weeks? Are you crazy? So I was like, look, I don't have anything. I have this. And I played them some of the SPYLACOPA stuff. And they were like, yep, this is cool. We'll do it. And that's basically what we went into the studio with to make Kiss the Lie, was all of this music I had written for SPYLACOPA. And we'd taken the basic ideas for maybe 5 or 6 songs that I had laid out. And that was the beginning of us making this next record. That would be the final record for the original lineup for Candiria, with Ken and Carly and me and Mike. Eric had already left. He left due to his injuries, and he didn't want to be on the road anymore. And so it would be the last record we would make. Ken would give us maybe 2 weeks of his time. He did all the tracking. We did pre-production together, and it was great. We had a great experience, but basically it was me and Carly. We produced the record. We spent most of our time together working on it alone. Mike was a huge part of it, but he was a little out of it. You know what I mean? He wasn't fully invested in it either, And it was a lot of that was, at the time, people were coming and going, and the band was kind of falling apart, but we had this one last record to offer, and I'm very proud of it. I really am very proud of it. I know it's like the black sheep record. Most people don't even know about it, but I highly recommend people check it out. I think it's a great record.
Definitely. I didn't know about it, so I'll check it out. Like,
check it out, man.
When the band kind of, basically went on hiatus in 2004, I didn't hear anything about you guys for a long time, so I didn't even like I said, I didn't even know it existed. And then you guys ended up signing to Metal Blade, which is incredible because that's a great label with, you know, so many amazing artists. And, you know, talk about, you know, that signing and kind of where you went from there.
Sure. I mean, in 2000, you know, after Candiria broke up and we put out Kiss the Lie, I was, I felt to myself, you know, me and Carly had always spoken about, you know, me, Carly, and Mike remain really close friends. We still all live in the same general area, and we still just stay in touch. We were all still actively making music, and me and Carly had always spoken about making an electronic record. You know, making some kind of record based on electronic beats and electronic music. We shared a love for that kind of music, and we always thought to ourselves, the next Candiria record is going to be this way. It never truly did happen, but I wound up putting out three remix albums on my label Rising Pulse Records with Carly and Mike's blessing, because there was only two other guys in the band. It was me, Mike, and Carly at that point. The only two people I had to talk to about stuff was Mike and Carly. And they were always like, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. You know, so I did wind up doing something sort of like what me and Carly had spoken about. But then all of these years passed. I went on to do SPYLACOPA and work on my own music. Carly went on to do, he formed other bands. Mike went on to play other music. We all went on our separate ways for many, many years. In 2014, I forget how the idea came about. I forget how it came about. I think Ken had an idea to work on this old Candiria cover song that we did called Invader. We did an Iron Maiden cover for the song Invaders. And it sounds nothing like Invaders. But regardless, Kenny went back and revisited it and remixed it and made it really cool. And he did this really cool stuff with it. And then there was this other piece of music, this B-side that we had. And it would be in 2014, this label called Giant put out a 7-inch of a A and a B side, and it would be the first Candiria release since the band had kind of broken up. And it wasn't like we were an active band, but it was just a thing that came out. But that sort of set a spark, you know, and it got me thinking again, and it got me Mike thinking again. If we could just get people together and we can write some music, people were starting to get into the idea of writing again. And then I was at a show with my friend Chris Santos. He is big into metal. He's like a celebrity chef. He's on that show Chopped. And we would go to shows all the time. He's a big, big music fan. And when he lived in New York, we would go to shows together all the time. And we went to see Amon Amarth at Irving Plaza. And after the set, we went backstage to say hello to the band. And the legendary Brian Slagle was backstage, and it was the first time I ever got to meet this metal legend, you know. And I got to meet him, and he's like, "Oh, you're John from Candiria. It's great to meet you. It's really cool." I was like, "It's a fucking amazing honor to meet you." And I walked away with Chris, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, man, do you think you could get me a meeting? Like, if I could you get me a meeting with Brian?" And he's like, "Not only will I get you a meeting with Brian, I'll pay for the dinner at my restaurant, and I'll sit you guys down. It'll be a great meal."
Oh, whoa.
And he goes, "And I'll make sure that he's nice, and I'll massage the situation." So me and Mike MacGyver sat down with Brian Slagle at Beauty in Essex, beautiful restaurant. If you haven't gone in the East Village, it's amazing.
I think I've actually been to that restaurant.
Yeah, that's Chris Santos' place, and it's
okay.
Great restaurant. And Chris really takes care of his people really, really well. So we sat down with Brian Slagle, and we talked about the possibility if Candiria were to get together, would Metal Blade be interested in putting out the record? And Brian Slagle said, without a doubt, if Candiria put out a record, I would 100% be interested in being a part of it. And that just sort of put mine and Mike's mind into this sort of like mindset of like, let's make a record for that guy. You know, let's make a metal. We're pumped to just make a record for Metal Blade and for Brian, and we want to make something that he would be proud of, and that we would be proud of, and that we would feel would fit into that world. And we did, and that set us on our journey. And it wasn't an easy task. It took us a year just to get drums going because we initially thought Ken would be a part of it, but he lived in LA. It was impossible to get him here to do writing sessions. It just didn't make sense. So we had to find a new drummer. And then we found a close friend of Ken's, this guy Dan, Danny Grossarth, and he played drums on the album. He did all the touring from that point on. But to answer your question, signing with Metal Blade was amazing. Working with Brian and all the people there it was fantastic. We've never worked with kinder people. They never said no to anything we ever asked for. Super supportive people, and just a great vibe all around. So super pleased that we got to work with them.
I just want to take a comment here real quick. Mike Olander from For the Love of Endeavor, Burnt by the Sun, says, John is the man. One of my favorite tours was Candiria and Burnt by the Sun.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Oh, man, that's so nice. That is awesome. It's so cool to hear from him. Yeah, we had a great time on tour. Another great, unique band, and we had a blast with them. Good times, great memories. Excellent.
You got any highlights from that tour?
Geez. Highlights, man. I'll tell you the truth, man. It's all pretty much a blur for me. Since the accident, I honestly, when the accident happened, I had a lot of trouble with holding on to all of my memories. Like I lost a lot of. I think what winds up happening is, things will trigger a memory, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, I completely that was gone out of my life, and now I have that back." I have some pictures in my mind of that tour, but it's nothing like it was this night and it was this show. I don't have anything like that. Like my memory is not as great since the accident. So
yeah.
All I can say is I remember having a blast with those guys, and they were great people. And I remember them being one of you have your favorite bands that you tour with, and they were one of the bands musically I look forward to this set every night. So and that's always nice because it's not always the case.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mike, thanks for stopping by. He's actually slated to come on the show one of these days when we can get a date confirmed. So maybe he could talk about it and we can kind of, hear some of the war stories about that tour. But with Julie Christmas, I'm a big fan of Cult of Luna, and my first exposure to Julie Christmas was that Mariner album that she did with them. And I'm like, this is amazing. Yeah. This is, I got real into that Scandinavian, doomy post-metal genre for quite some time. I still appreciate it, but I was really stoked when I heard that you were touring with her because, like I said, big fan. How did that whole collaboration come about? How did you get recruited to play for her?
Well, me and Julie have been making records and music for many years. She was one of the first people, not one of the first people. She's actually the last person I asked to be a part of the SPYLACOPA thing that I was doing back in 2006, 7 or so. And I met Julie. We were both invited to be on the guest list for the band ISIS was touring with Tool. And when they came to Jersey, I was added to the guest list and Julie was added to the guest list. And we actually wound up sitting next to each other for the show. And I never met Julie before. And we started talking, and I had no idea she was from Brooklyn, like a Brooklyn native. I'm a Brooklyn native. We both grew up here. And so immediately we hit it off. And then she told me, oh, I'm a singer from this band Made Out of Babies. And I was like, oh, this person is so interesting and cool. I'm going to check it out. And I went home and listened to her sing, and I was like, holy shit, I got to work with this person. And I hit her up and I was like, hey, I have this new music project. I'm working with Jeff from ISIS. I'm working with Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan. Would you want to be a part of it? And she was like, no. And I was like, damn it. And then I'd wait 2 weeks. I'd be like, hey, Julie, it's me again. I'm writing a song. For this project I'm working on, will you be a part of it? She's like, no. And she said no. She said no 9 times. And finally she's like, okay, fine. I will fucking do it. Like,
you're persistent.
I did. I got her to come and be a part of it. Finally, I really did. So that was the first thing that we worked on, and we worked on several songs, which came out over the course of, I'd say 2008, the first EP came out, and then the whole thing went away. Greg was like, "Okay, I got to go play into Dillinger Escape Plan," and all of the plans that me and him had kind of got tossed to the side. And then I was kind of left to figure it out. And I joined other bands and I did other things. And then in the meantime, and then later on in 2015, I released the rest of the music I had that I recorded during those sessions. And two of the songs Julie sang on, and I released those songs on the next record. It was called Parallels. And then a bunch of music that originally Greg was supposed to sing on, but I didn't have permission to use his vocals, and I didn't want to use his vocals. He wasn't involved in the project anymore. And so I changed things up and I did the vocals for them. And that wound up being that record. So that's the first thing that me and Julie worked on. Sometime after I released the first SPYLACOPA thing, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up here. Julie then came to me and said, "I'm writing a solo record. Will you help me write the solo record?"
Did you say no?
That was around the same time, 2008. It's like a big baby. I want to.
You're like, no.
No, we have the best relationship. We really do. We're like brother and sister. I mean, we really are. We have such a really great bond. And when we're on the road together, we are two troublemakers for sure. But when she came to me, I was like, of course. And we made the first solo record she'd ever put out called The Bad Wife. We made that record together. It was pretty much me and her writing most of it alone. And then Andrew Schneider, the guy who produced it, and the guy who is the bass player now for Julie Christmas and was then, that is a huge part of it. Us three were the first major part of the Julie Christmas band. It was short-lived. I think we did one show in Brooklyn. Julie Christmas, the band, went to Europe. I didn't go. They had to find a replacement guitar player for me. I couldn't go at the time. I had other personal things happening in my life, and it wasn't the right time for me. And so they went without me, and they did some cool stuff. But I know this is a lot, and it's very confusing. That was another record that came out on my label. So I was supporting them from home. I gave them a little tour support. So it was all good. And then after that record and doing that, Julie kind of went away and started doing her own thing. And started, she was a teacher, of course, and she loves science, and she does all these different things with her life. So her life went in a different direction, and she didn't do anything for some time. And then I think later on, I think in like 2014 or 15, she started working with Cult of Luna, and they put out the Mariner record in 2016. I don't know much about that, but that's kind of the story that I know. Working with the band now, like Johannes is also in the band from Cult of Luna. He's in the band as well. So working with him has been great. He's a great guy. We have a great camaraderie, and he's a fantastic guitar player. It's great playing with him on stage. He's just great all around. So nothing but great.
Excellent.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah. Here's another question we've got. Got an all-star show here today. Trivikram from the amazing 108 says, "What is your favorite guitar to record with? Has that changed over the years? Do you have an amplifier that you prefer to record with? Do you record riffs and stuff on your phone or into your computer?"
Okay, so I think as far as the guitar goes, for me it's like a different mask for a different task, depending on what I'm working on. For Candiria, I've been using guitars that have mahogany bodies, only mahogany, Invader pickups, and that's pretty much it. It's a pickup and a wood type. And you give me anything with those two, any guitar that's made out of mahogany and an Invader pickup, and that's pretty much my sound for Candiria. I record with those guitars, I play live with them, and I'm very happy to continue doing that. I never want it to change. I'm using the same guitars I have for Candiria for the past 20 some odd years. For other projects, it's always different. I do love the sound of Fender guitars for a lot of the more indie stuff and sort of alternative stuff that I do for my own project, LaMacchia. a more jangly, gritty, sort of overdriven sound. I think Fender guitars are great for that kind of stuff. I do use Sound City amplifiers. I'm endorsed by that company. And I play through one of their amps. I do a lot of recording with it, and I use it live all the time. It's a great amplifier, and anything you put into it sounds great. As far as using my iPhone, I always record ideas on my phone. There's a million fucking recordings on my iPhone, and I will be walking down the street, and I'll come up with an idea, and I'll be like, like a crazy person. And people look at me, and I'm like, whatever. And I just, come up with a riff or come up with an idea, and I just gotta make sure I remember it. I do a lot of writing on my couch, watching TV, and I'll just have an acoustic guitar with me all the time. And I'll just be sitting there and watching Seinfeld or watching, I don't know, what are my other favorites? Friends. I gotta say, it's a guilty pleasure of mine. I love Friends. Um, and I'll just be playing guitar, and I'll come up with an idea, and I'll grab my phone. I'll just, while Friends is in the background, there's always like Joey in the background. Hey, how you doing? And I'll be there's like a little thing I'm playing, and he's in the background. It's funny. But I do use my phone a lot, and I do record into my computer, and I use some DAW programs like Reason. I will use GarageBand if I'm in a pinch, but I do prefer to use Reason. I think, especially since they started doing recording years ago, it used to just be for composing, and now you can do recording and composing as well. So to me, it's like, I'm just going to keep using this program for years and years. So that's basically it.
And we had talked about, you mentioned talking about Seinfeld and Friends and whatnot. And to me, it was really interesting because I had no idea about the whole underworld connection with Candiria, which I think would have been incredible.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have seen you guys take like almost like a cinematic composing trajectory. So what are some films that you're really into at present? What, TV aside from Seinfeld and Friends, and what are you currently listening to? What are you currently reading? What do you got?
I just saw a movie on the flight home from London that really sort of I thought it was really, really beautiful. A movie called Girl with the Needle. It's by a director named Magnus von Horn. I believe he is Scandinavian, Swedish. I don't know exactly, but or German. I'm not sure. He's European. I will tell you that for sure. He's European. And the Girl with the Needle was a really beautiful, gorgeous movie. It reminded me of sort of like a what's that guy's name? Robert Eggers, who just made Nosferatu.
Yeah, Nosferatu. Yeah.
If you like Lighthouse and you like Nosferatu, if you like films like that, you will absolutely love Girl with the Needle. It is a beautiful, really creepy, dark movie. They pitch it as like horrifying. Horrifying if it was like the 20s, and I mean 1920s.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's kind of why he pushed it that way, to be like, this is a terrifying film. And I believe it was like he's trying to make this as if it's a period piece, But the movie is shot brilliantly. It's acted brilliantly. The cast it's gorgeously shot. The costumes are beautiful. It's just I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. TV, what did I fall in love with? Dark Winds. I thought that was a beautiful, beautiful series. That's on Netflix. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
My God, there's so much good TV. There's a new season of Big Mouth. If you're not a fan of Big Mouth and you've never seen Big Mouth, it's got to be the most horny, weird animated show you'll ever watch. It is absolutely brilliant.
Okay.
It's amazing. John Mulaney, the cast is incredible. The writing is incredible, and I unfortunately think this is the last season. So if you haven't seen Big Mouth, get ready, man. It is such an incredibly entertaining animated show. It's really, really fun and really cool.
Okay.
As far as music, the first thing that comes to mind is Aura Kogan. This artist named Aura Kogan. She's from Vancouver, I believe. And I've been listening to Aura Kogan for years, for the recent years, past I'd say 5 years or so. And she just put out an EP called "Bury Me," and it's 4 songs. It's really short. The whole thing fits on a 7-inch, 2 songs per side. But it's a beautiful, beautiful EP, and it's really, I would call it like experimental rock or experimental pop. I don't know what you call it. There's definitely some shoegaze in there. But she plays violin, sings. The instrumentation is very different. But it's based in rock music. It's guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. Her voice is very unique, very haunting, and weird and eerie, but beautiful at the same time. Had the pleasure of seeing her perform, opening up for Emma Ruth Rundle at Littlefields in Brooklyn. So she's now starting to sort of get the attention from people like Emma Ruth Rundle. She's about to go. I think she's about to go play Roadburn, which Julie we went and played Roadburn in 2023. I think she's on the verge to becoming a new, like, everyone's going to know who she is. Her band is amazing. Everyone in the band is super talented. I absolutely love the music, and yeah, I highly recommend it. What else? What's this guy's name? Damn it. Hold on. I gotta look.
Okay.
Little Barry.
Yeah.
Little Barry. That's the name of this other artist. He just put out a record. Let me look. Let me see. The album's called Electric War. It's Little Barry and Malcolm Cato. Catto. Cato. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Little, spelled out Little, and Barry, Barrie. Check out the album Electric War. It's some kind of weird psych rock jammy fusion, but it's super vibey. I immediately think of, like, Clutch's like Jam Room, their jam type of stuff. I think it kind of it can exist in that world, but it's a little bit more psychedelic and a little bit more creative in a psych rock sort of way. I honestly don't listen to a lot of metal, so you're not going to hear me talk about a lot of metal. The new Dalek single they just put out, it's called Presence, I believe. Let me see. Let me make sure I got that right.
And you're collaborating with that project, correct?
I'm collaborating with Mike Mayer from Dialect. Those guys are really, really dear friends of mine. Let me just see. Dialect. What's the name of that track? Oh, it's called The Essence. It's so fucking good. The hook, the musical hook is amazing. Will's lyrics are fucking fantastic. The production is great. I mean, these guys are so talented, and they're just real artists. I mean, this is the real deal. I mean, these guys are they're just doing it. And if you love stuff like Tribe Called Quest and Beastie Boys and like KRS-One and I mean, I can go on and on, but you get it. If you love creative hip hop, if you love creative music, please check out Dialect. They're so talented, and they're such great people, and more people need to hear them. And check out their new single called The Essence. It's so good. It's so fucking good. The hook is so good. I promise you'll enjoy it. What am I reading? Nothing. I struggle with this. I just went to see Randy from Lamb of God. He did a book signing at a bookstore in downtown in Dumbo. And he just put out a book called Just Beyond the Light, I believe it's called. And I haven't dug in yet. But it's a memoir, and I'm really, really interested because I got to hear him talk about it a bunch. And he talks about his experiences being on the road, his experience getting sober, and I love that guy. I love Randy. I got to give him a hug and say hello, and he was so pleased to see me and give me a hug in return and just talk for a moment about Candiria and Lamb of God and our time on the road, short time on the road together back in the day. We really were learning a lot, and we were just young guys on the road back then. We didn't know shit. We didn't know what was coming, how big they were going to get. We didn't know any of the things we know now. But we just knew that we wanted to be on the road. We love music, and yeah, we had dreams, you know. But yeah, I would say check out his book because he's such a great person, and he's really deep. And the few pages I did read, it's written really, really, really well. And yeah, man, support this guy. He's doing
Yeah.
it all, you know.
Yeah. Definitely. Love some Lamb of God.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Just check to see if there's any more questions. All right. So I guess my question for you, I always ask this of all the guests that come on the show.
Mm-hmm.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
The first thing that comes to mind is ego. And I didn't even understand that I had such a problem with my own ego. And I didn't even think it was the problem with ego is you feel you think you know you're right about everything, and you think you're doing the right thing, um because you're like, no, this is what's right. And you don't realize, like, there's no right or wrong. And I'm talking about when it comes to creativity. um I wish I could tell myself, my younger self, to be like, learn as fast as you can about how to be an open-minded collaborator, because Candiria, I think one of the things that made Candiria great was our egos. We were so strong-minded, and we were all such singular forces. Um, but we didn't become an incredible group of collaborators until after the band broke up, and we made while they were sleeping. At that point, me, Carly, and Mike were basically writing the record on our own. Ken was involved in a little bit of it, but for the most part, it was me, Carly, and Mike making that record on our own. Danny Grossoth wrote the drums, but we produced it ourselves, and that was probably the greatest example of Candiria's collaborative effort, of not fully understanding everyone's vision, not fully understanding where everyone was at, mentally, or where we all sat, but at the same time being open-minded and giving each other the floor when you had to, and allowing people to uh, express themselves, even when you were like, I hate this. I fucking hate this right now. It doesn't matter. Give them a chance. Let's hear it. Let's hear the completed idea before I shoot it down. I know I have my idea. I know it's like brimming, but I have to give him a shot because he feels just as strongly about this thing as I do. So I wish I could learn how to be a more open-minded collaborator at a younger age. I wish I had that. But you live and you learn, and it comes when it comes. And it is what it is. You know. That's what I would say to 15-year-old me.
That's a piece of advice I'd probably give to myself too. I found myself creatively married to certain ideas, and I didn't want to give those ideas up, and it would cause so much friction between me and whomever I was creating with. And yeah, definitely wish if I could go back and do things a little bit differently that I could do that. But hindsight's always 2020, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you know, you're doing great things now. And one thing I wanted to ask about too was you directed some music videos, and are you going to be doing any more projects with that in the future?
Yeah, I just directed a video yesterday. It was a 1-day shoot. It was originally going to be a 3-day shoot, but we realized, these days it's, anyway, not to get too deep into it. But we did. I shot a video for a band called The Twin. The song is called The Void. I don't know when it's slated to be released, but it's a great song. And we really did put together some great footage. And as a matter of fact, Michael MacGyver from Candiria, bass player from Candiria, he's one of the people. Mike is a really talented actor, and I've worked with him. I've directed him in the past. And he's great to work with. He really is like a talented actor, and he really gives himself fully 100%. I mean, it's really impressive to work with him because he just gives his all. Also work with a young lady that I know called Jay. It's not the first video I've worked with her on, but she jumped on this as well because she loves doing this stuff. And I just wanted to give them a shout out. But the band is called The Twin. The song is called The Void. and it's coming out down the line sometime. And I hope to do more directing. The issue with it is there's never any money. You know, it's difficult because most of what I do is music videos, and
Hmm.
musicians, you know, for the most part, they're struggling as it is, and it's just a tough world we live in. But I do hope to do more. I love directing, I love shooting, I love editing, I love all of it. I really do. And when I have the opportunity to do it, um, I really do. I really do embrace it. And yesterday, I got to say, I was like, we worked from 10 a.m. till 7, and I just was like, I can't believe how fast that day went, you know? And it's a sign that I know that I'm really happy doing it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Incredible. Do you have any sort of filmmaker influences?
Um, I mean, I have a lot. Are they directly in affecting my work? I don't know because I don't have enough experience. But um, I think
If you feel like you could really, I mean, I don't want to say, I guess, emulate, you know, if you feel like there was a director that you really appreciate their vision and you could see yourself going in the same direction visually, who do you think it would be?
I think the first name that comes to mind is David Lynch. The
Mm,
creativity, the humanity, but the madness in this human simple world. You know what I mean?
yeah.
How he just takes these characters, and if you didn't hear the dialogue or you didn't, you know what I mean? If you didn't see certain visuals, you just be like, I must be watching just a regular old movie. But it's like it's like a dream world, you know, and he
Yeah.
is able to create this sort of parallel sort of universe or this dreamlike world. And I think that that's definitely that definitely inspires me, you know, because it really the creative license there is so open ended that it's inspiring, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, my favorite Lynch film is probably his most straightforward film, which I believe to be The Elephant Man.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that,
I mean, it's so
that,
amazing.
because it's heartbreaking to me. It's so
Oh
like,
my god.
it's so real. As
Mhm.
you know, you can definitely see, like, if you've ever been neglected or, you know, been under the influence of people that were abusive or anything like that, it feels so real, and it feels so grounded as far as concerned with the rest of his catalog. I definitely do like some of his kind of more heady, cerebral, esoteric stuff.
Mhm.
Like, big fan of you know, Blue Velvet. I
Mhm.
like Mulholland Drive. I love all those. I'm big Lynch fan. It sucks that he left us, but I'm really glad that we got to see another season of Twin Peaks.
Sure.
Which, again, I'm a bigger fan of Twin Peaks season 1 and 2 than I was Twin Peaks: The Return. I feel
Mhm.
like I love the levity
Mhm.
of those first 2 seasons. I love kind of the quirky aspect of it, and I wanted to see original Dale Cooper come back more than he did in The Return. You know?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I do have to agree. I have my favorites, and there are some misses with me with some of the stuff he did. I remember there was one thing that he did, the rabbits thing.
Inland Empire. Ooh,
No, I actually
not a
loved it.
fan.
I loved it.
You liked it?
I loved
Oh,
it.
really? Okay.
But there was a separate thing that came from that, a thing called the rabbits or something like that, or and it was just completely to me. It was just like I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm not Inland Empire, the movie, the actual movie. I am a fan of that one. I do like.
Okay.
It.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have to say,
I might have to give it another try because I watched it and was just kind of, I was like, what is this? I was like,
yeah,
this is even, which is typically pretty easy to do with a Lynch
mhm,
film, but even more so where I was like, what is he doing? You
yeah.
know?
No, it's true, man. You know, come to think of it, there are other directors that I think I take a little bit of a cue from when it comes to like directing videos. I'd say Michael Mann. Um,
Oh, nice.
Heat is one of my all-time favorites. Manhunter. He just there's a certain modern noir quality to all of his films that are just it's just he's just an incredible filmmaker. His composition,
Yeah.
his palette, how everything is sort of a little subdued color wise, and a moodiness that like really it's very Michael Mann, you know.
Yeah.
And also Terry Gilliam.
Oh,
He'll use like The Fisher King is probably up there with my top 3 films of all time. And
oh, it's a beautiful film.
oh my God. I mean, I could literally, we could talk for hours about that. I could talk for hours. I mean, there's that, there's moments in that film that I can't watch it without tearing up, you know?
Oh yeah.
The performances in that film, everyone in the cast is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just a gorgeous fucking film. I might have to watch it again.
It's been a while since I've seen it. I think it's definitely one of those films that you have to be kind of in the mood to watch.
Absolutely.
Like one of my buddies got a 4K restoration of Trainspotting. He's like, well, we got to watch Trainspotting one of these days. I'm like, it's got to be a day where I've got nothing else going on, man. It's like, that's such a heavy film. But, you know, it's interesting that you brought up Michael Mann. Like just 2 nights ago, I watched Last of the Mohicans, which is an incredible film. And he did a film called The Keep, which I'd never seen. Have you seen that before?
No, I haven't. You know, to be honest with you, I really have to dive a little bit deeper into Michael Mann because I think Michael Mann, I think Miami Vice, I think Heat, I think
Manhunter.
There's like a specific thing. I guess like it's the same thing with Lynch. Like I don't immediately think Eraserhead or The Elephant Man.
Elephant Man, Straight Story.
I think Blue Velvet. I think, you know what I mean?
You don't think probably Dune.
You know, yeah. I have to get out of the mindset. But I do have to do a deeper dive with Michael Mann. I do love his work. But I have to give it up to the younger guys. Robert Eggers, who's the guy that made Honora recently? He also made The Florida Project.
Sean Baker.
Sean Bank, yeah.
Incredible
director. Incredible.
Yeah.
There's so many new younger guys that just we need to be talking about them. You know, Lynch and these guys and Michael Mann and Terry Gilliam. I mean, they're incredible and their work will continue to inspire, but there are a lot of young directors out there that are doing incredible fucking things. What's his name?
Yeah.
The guy that made, what the hell's his name? The guy that made Annihilation and Men.
Oh, Alex Garland.
Oh,
yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
That man, he's
doing the new 28 Years Later.
Yes, he did that, and he also
with Danny Boyle. Yeah,
right. And he also made his new movie Civil War, which I haven't seen yet.
Haven't seen that one either, and I haven't seen Honora either. I have a SAG screener of it, and it's been sitting on my my table forever. Unfortunately, I don't have a DVD player anymore, and I've been trying to get them to change it over to digital screeners, and they just haven't done it yet. So one of these days, I've been meaning to watch it. Yeah.
Oddly enough, I was on the plane coming home. And I put Honora on, and you know how you're on a plane, and if you want, you can watch the person you could watch what the person in front of you is watching, that person's screen, you can watch that person's screen. And I'm sitting here watching Honora, and I know you haven't seen it, I'm not trying to give away too much, but the movie opens up and she's fucking completely naked giving a guy a lap dance. And I'm just like, whoa, you know, and then, you know, it continues on like that, you know what I mean? And it's 20 minutes, I'm like, I can't watch this. There might be children behind me. You know what I mean?
It's like a French film where they just really just keep you in it.
I'm like, let me turn this off. I'll watch it another time. But yeah, it looks like a great film. And the thing about it is, one of the people that are in my life right now, one of my partners, she's from Brighton. She grew up in Brighton. I grew up in Sheepshead Bay, which is the neighborhood next to it. There's Coney Island, Sheepshead Bay, Brighton, whatever. Anyway. So she's from Brighton. So I was like, oh my God, in Honora, the girl is from Brighton. So I was like, oh, there's an interest in it because I've been going to Brighton with this chick and we've been hanging out down there, going to like these Eastern European markets because she's Ukrainian. And so now I'm looking at it, an interest that I didn't have in the movie before. But yeah, what I've seen so far is really, really cool. And I look forward to checking out more. You know?
Yeah, I've been trying to do like a deeper dive on his catalog because I've been told a lot of good things about him. And, you know, there's a few of his movies I've seen. There's a few I haven't seen. But yeah, Nora's been, because I like that Mikey Madison a lot. I think she's great. And you know, was really kind of stoked to see her, you know, get the award because I liked her in Scream. I was like, oh, that crazy chick in Scream. And like, I liked her in the limited amount of screen time that she had in, the Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and
right.
you know, but I was like, hopefully she doesn't get burned to death in Anora because she does in those other two.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Sean Baker, definitely. But you know, we had mentioned dialect earlier. Anything else that you wanted to plug?
Well, yes, me and Mike Mayer from Dialect are working on an EP that will be coming out later in the year, and it's his last name and my last name. It's Mayer LaMacchia, and it's an EP. It's going to be 4 songs. We feel really strongly about it. It's nothing like, well, I won't say it's nothing like anything I've done in the past. I've done stuff like this in the past, but it's not. I'll just put it this way: there's no guitar, there's no instruments on it. It's all made with beats and samples and synthesizers and our voices. We're really excited about it, and it'll be coming out on Mind Over Matter Records later on this year. So keep an eye out for that.
And you've also got the 20th anniversary edition of What Doesn't Kill You on vinyl. Everybody that's listening, go pick up a copy from John. Incredible record. I'd actually like a copy, so I might have to do it as well. So anybody that's listening, please support John in all of his creative endeavors. And like I had mentioned earlier, I have a merchandising company, Hell's Heart Merch Co. As you can see on the bottom there, hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use the code 20 for 20% off of your entire order. Fine Bella Canvas, Next Level, Tri-Blend t-shirts. You like movies? You like hardcore? You like music? If you just like nice shirts, they're really cool. Check them out. And anybody that's been listening, if you would also do me a favor and like, comment, share, and subscribe, and click on that bell for notifications, that would be most excellent. Again, I want to thank anybody that showed up. We had some really great people that were in the chat today. And I want to thank again, John LaMacchia. I appreciate you so much for coming, man.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. Great conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everybody, namaste. God bless. Be good. Appreciate